Just giving you a little bit more on Tamanna, she is basically a queen of turning passions into reality. And her story will not just leave you with a spark of motivation in your heart, but also with a smile on your face. So Tamanna, thank you so much for having this chat with me. So I start with my first question. And this is truly an incredible story because she was in a very comfortable job in an investment as an investment banker in US, had a small baby, enjoying her life, and suddenly she decided to come to India and raise her child over here and set up an online community. So where did this spark come from?
Thanks, Prerna. First of all, really nice to meet you today, a fellow mom co-founder. Very, very inspiring to hear what you're building. And thank you, Vani. I'm just so inspired to be here. Uh, and thank you for having me on stage. So, yes, I was in New York. I was in investments. I had a 2.5-year-old. Uh, and the whole idea of starting a community came when I just could not breastfeed my son. Uh, this was when I had to get back to work after 3 months, and I was like, how hard can this be, right? All children breastfeed and then take bottles. So that's where the first aha moment came that, I should have more support from other like-minded moms. And the whole idea of starting communities for moms happened then. When I looked back and spoke to moms back in India, I realized the need gap and opportunity is much bigger in India. Just the lack of access to experts, just sheer number of babies being born. So I said, if I have to do something, let's do it in a place where the impact will be much, much bigger, which is why I quit and I moved back. Not just that, my husband's my co-founder, and he's been in the US for, like, he did his high school there. So we were both there for many, many years. And everyone thought that we've lost our jobs and we've moved back here, whereas our families were in the US. So yeah, we then built online communities for moms, took a very different path to building it. We built them on Facebook and WhatsApp. So lots of Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups built around informational pain points, location, and life stages. So now everyone is like, not only did you move back, but you moved back to build Facebook groups? Like, what's going on? But anyway, very, very um, gratifying journey for those 2, 3 years. We realized that so many moms have so many issues they cannot discuss in uh, out in the open offline world, even though we live in so-called joint families and have all the support system. They cannot share what they are feeling. And these communities started to grow like crazy. After 2 years, we were in like the top 0.5% of the fastest growing, most engaged communities on Facebook. Um, a big insight came there. We saw that a lot of conversations, half of them were around products or brands, which meant that, brands could utilize communities as a ground to impart information, education to moms. But also around this time, I got selected by Facebook for a program where they picked the top 100 fastest growing organic communities across the globe, and they gave us some grant funding, and they put 100 of us in a room like this. It wasn't all females, but 80% for females, coincidentally, and this was in Menlo Park. That was when the second aha happened, because I realized that amongst those 100, we were the most advanced in terms of the technology that we had built for community growth, and also in terms of the way we had started to monetize. Every single community owner there, admin from across the world, was struggling to figure out how to monetize their community. And that stuck with me. And that's where we decided to pivot and build a platform that aggregates existing Facebook groups, WhatsApp, now we have Reddit and other platforms, to help these community owners earn through meaningful brand partnerships, which is where Baby Destination became Convosight. So it's been a long journey and very, very serendipitous.
So how many of you over here are either moms, young moms, planning to be moms soon? Raise your hand.
Wow.
Wow, that's a huge community right here, all right? So here is something that personally happened to me. I had a C-section. After 11 days of that C-section, I started going back to office. And this was schools, right? And in schools, you really don't have a space for yourself because any moment, any child can enter into your room, any moment, any teacher can enter into your room, and I was breastfeeding. The result of that was I was constantly having a lot of trouble, a lot of guilt about not doing a good job with my child. And I firsthand relate to it, right? Because that community and a community where you can safely ask those questions can be so helpful for young mothers. And I think each and every one of us at some point through that journey of being a mother have had that major self-doubt moment, right? Did I do something wrongly? Why am I not breastfeeding my child properly? Oh, my child is having colic. So I mean, that aha moment was such a fantastic idea for all of us young mothers. But in this aha moment, what was the greatest challenge you faced while building through this entire journey of online communities, then Convosight? What was your biggest challenge?
So I think there's so many challenges. I don't know which was the biggest one. I can talk about a couple of big challenges. Uh, but I think sort of the biggest thing is through it all, just uh, believing in yourself. Like I have to be my biggest cheerleader because if I'm not cheerleading for myself, then who else will? So I have to believe in myself and just know that we'll figure this out. But 1 year after we moved to India, we had bootstrapped, and we were very clear that until we don't find PMF, we're not going to raise capital. We anyway had first-time founders, right? So did not know much. But 1 year into that journey, we were just out of cash. Like literally, we only had 1 month's worth sort of, payroll. Although we did have large customers, like, even today we work with like an HUL, a PNG, we work with very, very large customers, but then cash is an issue. Like there's a period between when you deliver and when you get the cash. Um, and at that point, I remember I was on the airport and my co-founder, who's my husband, who always gives me these shocks, calls me that, what do we do now? Like I'm entering the airport after a day full of meetings. He's like, okay, 1 month, that's it. I'm like, okay, either I miss my flight or I figure this out. So I called my ex-boss, and this is someone in New York. His name is Tariq Khan uh, at General Motors, where I was in investment banking, and I told him what's happened. He had also given us a $20,000 check when we started out, just as a token of, he said, I know you'll do something big. I called him. I said, look, Tariq, this is what's happening. He was in Mecca at that point for a pilgrimage. And after the 10-minute conversation, he said, I'm going to transfer $100,000. And someone was next to me listening to this whole conversation. And that person was like, wow. And I remember, like, I barely made it to my flight, and I texted my co-founder. I'm like, don't worry, we're all set. And by then, the cash came. So, I mean, this is just a small example of early days. And it's not that we couldn't put in the $100,000, right? We'd bootstrapped, so we'd set aside some money. But then there was a discipline. I had a child. It's not like we'll put all the money here and then what if something happens, right? You have to take care of your family. So we wanted to stick to that discipline. But there's so many challenges. There are so many heartaches. And it's mostly linked to people, right? Whether it's the team, whether it's stakeholders. But I think just knowing that the intent is right, that if we don't change the world, who else will? Uh, right? One person, one admin at a time. I just want to mention at Convosight, so it's been 3 years since Baby Destination became Convosight, and in these 3 years, 5,000 Facebook group admins have earned $3.8 million in India. And like I get goosebumps when I say that because this is India. And imagine like getting brands to pay in India. And this is, we didn't just want them to earn once, we wanted them to earn sustainably, to be able to sustain. And 70% of them are women, just because that's the makeup of community admins. So it does take a lot. We are a first to the world platform. Communities is a new channel for marketing. So it's like, when Google came and they said, hey, start advertising on Google. We're saying start doing it on Facebook groups. So yeah, it's lots of challenges every day. I think you and I were talking about a challenge you faced today.
the challenge that I was facing today, luckily my co-founder is not my husband, because there is enough shocks he gives me at home. I don't want any more shocks at work. I'm like, you mind your own thing, I mind my own thing. It's all right like that. Uh, but talking about challenges, all challenges move into building something very, very glorious. And there are moments that are tough, but then there are moments that make us feel so rewarded. And you spoke about one when you said that you had $3.5 million that people in India and communities in India have benefited. So what are some very heartwarming moments of building Convosight?
Sure. So I think it's like that, right? If we were to look at the volatility of how a founder feels, it's more volatile than the VIX. But yeah, so I think the first time when an admin shared a story of how she bought a laptop for herself and how she was able to pitch in towards the monthly payments because they were buying a house. And after that, it never stopped. Like now we hear somebody who's buying something for the child or who's done something for the husband. But that's the first time I'm like, we're on to something. I also want to mention when I look at my team and one of my colleagues, Ritvika, is here. I just want to mention like some of them, like Ritvika joined as a content writer. Today she leads customer success for us for South. It's just, it just amazes me. Like, there's something right that's happening. It's just helping people unlock their potential in one way, shape, or form. And we're just a Via Media, like grateful and privileged to be doing this. But I think really those are some of the moments which just keep me going.
That's truly amazing. And taking you, who's inspiring so many people, who's supporting so many people now, who was your support system? Who was your mentor? Who you said that this is the person who inspires me? We're sitting in a CXXO platform. It is a community for women supporting women. It is a community for women inspiring women. So who was your source of inspiration?
So I think so many inspiring women here, each one of you. I had the privilege of meeting Vani today. I'd only known her. But personally, I would just say my grandma. I think who I am is because of my grandma. She's no more, but she became a widow when she was 16 in 1947, and her husband got shot when they were moving from J&K to Delhi, right? They were on feet. And I really had the privilege of just being with her. I used to sleep with her, be with her. She was a principal. She got an award from the president. But really, her life was about giving. So there's one mantra, give more than you get. And, there's a quote that she used to live by it, that there are two most important days, one day when you're born, one when you know why. And her and I, it's like, when you find out the why, you get down and you work on it. So just looking at her every single day do so many amazing things, and she used to do it for women a lot, right? Like she used to teach widows, and I was so proud of her. And I think everything that I learned is from her. Every inch of who I am is because of her.
So when I was growing up, my mother used to tell me, give and God will send. I didn't understand that. I had a candy in my hand and she used to give it away and say, give and God will send. I'm like, that's really not funny, right? I don't understand this quote. But listening to this story, I somewhat relate to give and God will send. So talking about this story of your grandma, and I actually want to now, finally, before ending in the last minute or so, open up the floor to all the women over here, because this is something quite close to my heart. And so many of you are mothers. Tell me something, right? She is co-founder with her husband as well. How many of you think that there is a work-life balance in the sense that your husband is a co-founder at office, but is also a co-founder with you at home, where he's actually helping you in every little thing related to your child, versus, okay, in office we are equals, but at home you get to do all the work. So how many of you feel they are equal partners at home? Okay, half of the mothers feel so. All right, so your journey on the same, how many, given your heading such a large online community, a lot of mothers must be asking such questions. What has your journey been like, and what have you heard from India at large?
I think for me, I think my husband, my dad, my brother, I think all the guys in my life and all the women I'm surrounded by, I think they're the wind beneath my wings. Um, so really, it's when I'm traveling, my job is such. I also lead sales, so I do travel a lot, and my son is now 9. But I couldn't be more grateful for him and also for my parents. Um, Otherwise, I don't think I would have been able to do this, right? Because we have responsibilities at home. So very, very grateful. More than equal parenting, I would say. So yeah, just grateful for that. And I also think I think times are changing now because we have access to 100,000 communities now. We see lots of parenting communities, the conversations that are happening. And I think the narrative is changing. I think more and more men are realizing the worth and chipping in. So we're seeing a change. It's gradual, it's behavior change, but I think it's happening.
All right, so here, so a huge round of applause for Tamanna, and a huge round of applause to all the mother inside us.